Pushing up on the Speech off.
Pushing up on the trapdoor slightly, you let loose a large amount of dust from above which fills the air and forces you to cough a few times. You do your best to make as little noise as possible and suppress further coughing as the air slowly clears. By stepping up to the next rung, you are able to peer out through the crack and into the light. Your eyes adjust quickly, and the first thing you see is a stepped pyramidal structure made of finely set gray stones that don't look native to this island, rising about 2 stories high. There's a small doorway leading inside. It is nearby, but due to your angle, you cannot see through the doorway from here. The grounds surrounding the pyramid are hard-packed earth with the vegetation cleared away, but surrounding that is the dense mangrove forest you are all too familiar with. With all that growth in the way, it's no surprise you couldn't see this structure from elsewhere on the island.
Speech on. The ground list. Step out of the trapdoor. Speech off.
It seems best to move quickly, just in case. You keep one arm raised above you to push open the trapdoor as you take the last steps up the ladder and out onto the hard-packed earth. You turn and close the wooden trapdoor as you scan your surroundings. The clearing surrounding the pyramid is small, but there are the ruins of another smaller building here. This one must have been both wood and stone, for there are ashes, charred wood, and fire-blackened stones strewn nearby the wreckage like flotsam from a capsized ship. The fire has long since gone out, but you guess it can't have been like this for more than a few weeks. In the center of the ruin is a half-melted hunk of ash-covered bronze, and emerging from the back of it is a large iron cogwheel. You've never seen its like, but you also can't guess what it's for, or who built it. You don't see anyone but yourself in the clearing, which relaxes you slightly.
Speech on. Enter the step pyramid. Speech off.
Still thinking about what the contraption in the ashes could be, you walk over to the step pyramid as a light breeze picks up and rustles the mangroves. You come to the edge of the doorway and set one hand against the sun-warmed stone and carefully peer around the corner and into the structure. To your surprise, the inside of the structure is well lit by sunlight streaming down from above. There must be a hole or window at the top of the pyramid. It illuminates a single large room with a stone floor and walls. Stacked against the far wall are large wooden barrels, hogshead after hogshead, rising up to the sloped ceiling. Nothing indicates what they contain. Near the casks is a large bronze apparatus with many levers, buttons, and switches protruding from its face. A large iron cog rises up behind it, and from its top extends a conspicuous bronze hand that clutches at the air. It is obvious that something is to be set in the hand, but it is currently empty.
Speech on. Examine the contraption. Speech off.
You step into the room to get a better look at the contraption. It could be like the one you saw in the ruins. A voice suddenly calls out to you. "Good, good, right on time. Bring it over here." Startled, you turn your head toward the voice and see a short old man in a dusty embroidered sky blue coat crouched atop a stool in front of a complex workbench. His back is to you, but his head is turned in your direction. He wears a pair of thick jeweler's spectacles with several extra magnifying lenses rotated into place. Surprised by his appearance and confused by his words, you hesitate. He speaks up again. "Hurry up now, and I hope you're wearing the sea gift as your captain promised. It's for your own protection, you know."
Speech on. Surprised by him. Don the headband. Approach the man. Don the headband. Speech off.
The sea gift. The headband from the room with the pedestals? You open your satchel and retrieve the headband, then place it gently around your head with the iridescent seashell that adorns the front facing outward. You feel foolish. Is this what the old man is expecting? Still unsure exactly who this man is, you walk across the room to him and his workbench. The workbench is wide and flat, covered with spools of copper wire, dozens of tiny bronze mechanisms, and several larger iron gears. There are also 2 tall stacks of books next to several bottles of colored liquid and a silver decanter. Scattered here and there are a few small yet finely cut gemstones that glitter in the light. The man blinks at you over the complex glasses mounted on his head, examining your appearance. The man smiles approvingly as he looks up at the iridescent seashell on your headband and nods absently to himself. Then his smile twists downwards, and his nostrils flare as he sniffs the air ostentatiously. "Is that ale on your breath? You've been drinking. Your captain and I explicitly agreed there would be no drinking." "Well," the old man says, still perched atop the stool and looking critically up at you, "it seems your captain still doesn't know how to adhere to contract and keep his crew in line." He narrows his eyes over the top of his glasses at you before he reaches one arm beneath his heavy coat, fumbles for a moment with some internal clasp, then withdraws a black velvet pouch tied shut with copper wire. He hefts the pouch in your direction until you reach for it. Then he tugs it out of reach and slams it down on the workbench where it clinks heavily. "I don't think so. If you can't keep your end of the bargain, then I won't be paying in advance." He extends one long finger and begins shaking it at you as he continues. "I expect the rest of our accord to be held to. The Queen's ruby. You'll still get your full payment even, after it's delivered. There," he says, pointing across the room towards the bronze contraption with a grasping hand, waiting for something to be set in place. "The Queen's ruby goes there."
Speech on. Vertical squat 0. Agree to deliver the ruby. Speech off.
"Yes, of course," you say. The old man nods dismissively and waves you toward the door with one hand as he turns back to his workbench. "Go, get out of here and retrieve the ruby. I pay you and your pirate captain to get what I need, not waste my time. Come right back with the Queen's ruby, as promised. I have work to do." Back outside the stone pyramid, you take a moment to collect your thoughts. Who was that old man, and why does he want the Queen's ruby? He obviously had you mistaken for someone who is supposed to deliver it. And did he just say pirate captain? Could that mean the pirates that attacked your ship? Suddenly you hear wood scrape against hard-packed earth. Your eyes dart to the trap door, and you see it ajar with someone's arm opening it from beneath.
Speech on. Vertical 0. Hide in the forest. Hide in the ruins. Speech off.
You tear off across the clearing toward the ruins as fast as you can run. You glance toward the trapdoor, then suddenly arrive at full speed, leaping into the air to clear a pile of rubble and then taking 2 large steps among the ashes to slow yourself before ducking down and stopping heavily against a large fire-blackened cornerstone. You drop down with your back flat against the ground, gazing up at a few wispy clouds working their way across the blue sky. You breathe heavily but focus on deep, quiet breaths as you hear the trapdoor slam shut. You dare not lift your head to get a better look, but studying the low, broken remnant of wall next to you, you spot a small hole you might be able to see through.
Speech on. Vertical 0. Don't risk moving. Look through the hole. Look through the hole. Page speech off.
You crawl slowly to the small hole without raising your head or body above the low wall. You put your eye up against it and breathe in the charcoal scent of ash as you look. Slowly walking from the trapdoor in your direction is a shirtless man with one large earring and his hair drawn up into a top knot. His hand rests at his side on the hilt of a cutlass. He must have heard your running footsteps and decided to take a look.
Speech on. Vertical 0. Move away from the ruins. Speech off.
There might still be time. You stay low behind the wall and crawl forward until you reach a section of collapsed roof. You work your way towards its rear and slip around the corner just as the shirtless man arrives at your former hiding place. That was close. You remain still for a moment, hoping he will leave, but you hear him step onto and over the wall and down into the ashes. You look back and forth, searching for a place to go next, but the rubble blocks your way. Unless... There! You could step up onto the collapsed roof, run up it, and then jump down near the step pyramid. The footsteps are close. It's now or never. You spring up and turn, for a split second, face to face with the shirtless man before you vault up onto the section of collapsed roof with one hand on his shoulder and begin running. You hear both a curse and the unsheathing of a cutlass behind you as you run a few steps up the charred beams and leap out and down, back into the clearing. You sprint behind the step pyramid and see a narrow path leading into the forest.
Speech on. Vertical 0. Take the forest path. Speech off.
With no real choice, you run down it as fast as you can, heart thundering in your chest as your feet slap against the ground again and again. After some time, you slow your pace and turn your head over your shoulder. There's no sign of pursuit. You slow further, cocking your head to hear over the sound of your own ragged breaths, eventually stopping entirely to listen and rest. Your mouth tastes metallic from the exertion, so you lean over and spit between breaths. It doesn't seem safe to stop, but who knows what you might run into if you hurtle along the path at this pace. You resume your journey, but this time at a brisk walk, recovering energy and building confidence that you aren't being followed. The path is narrow, and roots snake back and forth over its surface. It takes a bit of concentration to pick your way over the path without catching on roots or twisting your ankle. As you continue, the air gets ever hotter and stickier with moisture, and your clothes begin to cling to your sweaty skin. You tug on your shirt a few times to get some air flowing as you walk. You go to wipe your brow with the back of your arm when you feel the headband there. You pull it off, slick with sweat, and return it to your satchel. Large brown lizards flee as you approach them on the trail, scampering off toward brown muddy pools among the scrub, and the occasional small bird flits from one tree to another before turning to cock its head at you at your passage, sometimes chirping angrily. This trail runs deeper into the island, and while it seems to head fairly steadily in the same direction, small turns in the trail and lots of overgrowth from the forest around prevents you from seeing very far down the trail. Up ahead, you see the path fork around a muddy pool of water, each trail disappearing into the forest. You pick your way over the thick growth of roots up to the pond and consider your options.
Speech on. Vertical 0. Inspect the path further. Take the right path. Speech off.
You resume your brisk walk on the path that heads around the right bank of the pond. The thick roots clear up a bit, and the going becomes easier. Right up against the pond, you see a ramshackle wooden shed. As you approach, you see the doors hanging by a single rusty hinge. Nearby, just out of the water of the pond, lie the rotting remains of an old rowboat.
Speech on. Vertical 0. Continue on. Search the shed. Speech off.
Stepping up to the shoddy wooden shed, you reach and grab the door by the side and give it a good hard yank. It pops easily off the only remaining hinge, and you throw it to the side where it tips and splashes into the water. One side of the shed is dominated by two empty lidless barrels, but the other side is empty, except for a square hanging on the wall. You step inside and get a closer look at the square. It is an old wrinkled piece of linen with a map sketched on it. Poring across it with your fingertip, you find Montego Harbor, then the Sunken Isles. You keep tracing across it until you see the mainland. Written here is the number 444. Strange.
Speech on. Vertical 0. Continue on. Take the map. Speech off.
You take the map from the wall and roll it up before putting it inside your satchel. There's nothing else worth your time in here. You continue on down the forest trail which continues to hug the edge of the pond. Before long, it joins with another path, presumably the other fork from before. A short way down the path, you see a gray stone building rising out from the surrounding forest. You stop for a moment to listen, but you hear nothing apart from the buzz of a few nearby insects. You approach the building slowly, and soon you can see a small wooden door. You enter the small clearing surrounding the stone building in a crouch, staying low in case anyone is looking for you. You look around, but nobody else is here, so you turn your attention to the building itself. The structure is plain gray stone, similar to those you saw before. The door is unmarked, adorned only with a